I see your exhaustion. It is not merely a body worn out after a long day, but a soul weighed down, longing for a pause amidst this overwhelmingly noisy world. But take heart, for in this very moment, you have come home. This video is not merely sleep sounds. It is a sanctuary of peace reserved just for you. Tonight, imagine we are sitting by a warm hearth, sheltered from the cold night outside, to listen and be healed by the one who once said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Together we will walk through his great paradoxes, where the weak are sheltered and storms must bow before peace. Before this warmth envelops you, I have two important invitations. Take a deep breath and relax your shoulders to cast all your burdens into the comments section below as a ritual of letting go. And hit subscribe right now to commit that you will always dedicate time to tend to your soul each night. Now, the fire is burning bright and God is waiting. Close your eyes. Our journey begins. In the journey to find peaceful sleep, paradoxically, we often begin in the darkest of places. Before the light of the warm fire in Jesus can warm the soul, we must acknowledge the cold surrounding us. Act 1 of the script opens not with a magnificent, glorious scene, but with the terrifying silence of a prison, the place holding John the Baptist. This is not merely a historical event, but a powerful metaphor for our own state of mind. Those imprisoned by anxiety, insomnia, and unanswered questions amidst the night. John the Baptist, who once shouted powerfully by the Jordan River, the one known as the voice of one crying in the wilderness, now faces the silence of 4 stone walls. Imagine his feelings. That is exactly how you feel when you lay your back on the bed after a long, stormy day. Tired, skeptical, and lonely. In that darkness, a great question arises. The question John sent his disciples to ask Jesus, and also the question our subconscious whispers every night. Are you the one who is to come, or shall we look for another? This question holds the entire weight of human existence. Are you the one? Is this peace real? Is this rescue meant for me? Or must I continue to brace myself and endure these pressures alone? In the context of Bible for Sleep content, exploring John's psychology in this passage is incredibly valuable. We do not describe imprisonment to cause fear, but to create empathy. The listener needs to see that even a great prophet has moments of weakness, moments of feeling abandoned. This validates the listener's sadness and fatigue. They are not alone in their doubt. John's doubt is not unbelief. It is the cry for help of a soul longing for confirmation. When you lie tossing and turning, your mind is just like John's prison. Negative thoughts run in circles. Worries about tomorrow imprison you. You need an escape, an answer to safely fall asleep. Precisely at this touch point, the biblical story becomes the personal story of each individual. We are borrowing John's words to say to God, "God, I am so tired. I have tried my best, but darkness still surrounds me. Are you really here?" The fact that Jesus does not appear immediately to break John's prison is also a profound psychological detail that needs analysis. He does not use power to change external circumstances instantly, just as sleep does not come the moment we close our eyes, but he sends a message to change internal perception. This is an important preparatory step for the mind. Before receiving rest, we must learn how to face waiting. Waiting in faith is different from waiting in despair. One is torment, the other is surrender. In this passage, we lead the listener from empathy with John to reviewing their own prison. Perhaps your bars are financial pressure, broken relationships, or simply chronic insomnia. But remember, John's question has been sent, and it will certainly have a response. That dark and cold prison space is the most perfect backdrop for the light of hope to shine more brilliantly than ever. We do not avoid the darkness. We sit with it, acknowledge it, and wait. Notice how Jesus responds. He does not send back dry theological dogma. He does not scold John for a lack of faith. His previous silence was not absence, but preparation for an answer through the most authentic action. This soothes the listener's psychology. God is not angry when you are worried. God does not blame you when you have trouble sleeping. He is preparing an answer that surpasses your understanding. Ending this first idea, we leave the listener suspended in John's question, but with a different mindset. Not in panic, but in expectation. We have established the context. A weary soul seeking the Messiah, and that one is about to speak. The transition from the darkness of doubt to the light of evidence is about to begin. The echo from the prison has reached the ears of the healer, and the night is about to be lifted by miracles. And when the plea from the depths of the mind's prison echoes forth, Jesus does not respond with empty promises. He responds with tangible miracles, with the transformation of reality, opening a new chapter where the impossible becomes possible. When John the Baptist's messengers sought out Jesus, they carried with them a whole sky of doubt from their teacher, and also from ourselves. What were they expecting? A loud declaration? A plan to overthrow the Roman government to free John? Or a lofty theological sermon to reassure the spirit? But no, Jesus chose a completely different way to answer, a response that struck directly at the senses and the hurting hearts. He did not argue. He acted. Before the eyes of those messengers, and before the eyes of your mind right now, a picture of restoration began to move. That was the moment when words became superfluous before power. Visualize that scene. The blind, those who had lived their whole lives in thick darkness, knowing neither the sun nor the faces of loved ones, suddenly had their eyes opened. Light flooded in, not gradually, but instantly. The chaos of darkness vanished, giving way to clarity and sharpness. Then the deaf, those imprisoned in absolute silence or haunting ringing, suddenly heard the wind, the birds, and most importantly, the gentle voice of the healer. The lame, the helpless who could not walk on their own feet, now leaped for joy. Jesus turned to the messengers and spoke a sentence that I want you to carve into your heart tonight, verbatim as follows. Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk. Those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Why is this conversation important for your sleep? Because, my friend, these miracles are not just ancient medical events. They are healing metaphors for your soul right now. Think about the phrase, the blind receive sight. Okay, how many nights have you lain tossing and turning because you could not see a way out of financial problems or a cracking relationship? Anxiety blurs our eyes, making us see only a blackness of despair. But when you come to God in sleep, He grants you sight, not necessarily solving the problem immediately, but the ability to see hope amidst difficulties, to see God's hand holding yours. That is spiritual light, dispelling the fog of fear. Then the deaf hear. The modern world makes us deaf in a different way. The noise of phone notifications, the arguments of public opinion, the criticism of society, all form a wall of chaotic sound, preventing us from hearing peace. Now, let Jesus touch the ears of your soul. Let Him turn off those noises. When He speaks, the noise of the world must be silent. so you can hear the peaceful beat of your own heart and the soothing lullaby of God. And most especially, the good news is proclaimed to the poor. The poor here are not just those lacking money. It is us, those poor in sleep, poor in peace, poor in vital energy after an exhausting day. The good news comes to us not as a religious burden, but as a gift. The good news is that you do not need to carry the whole world on your own anymore. The good news is that you are allowed to be weak, allowed to rest, because there is an infinitely rich one caring for you. Jesus sent that answer back to the prison for John. Imagine John's feelings when hearing these words. No bars were broken. The prison remained cold. But in his heart, the storm had dispersed. He knew that the Messiah was present and acting. That confirmation brought absolute peace of mind, the kind of peace one can have even when external circumstances have not changed. That is the secret to a good night's sleep. Peace of mind does not come from finishing everything, but from knowing that the one who holds everything is beside us. Hearing this, I invite you to relax your body. As the blind received light, let your mind see peace. As the deaf heard sound, let your soul listen to this holy silence. The evidence of God's power in the past is the assurance for your sleep in the present. If He raised the dead, can He not make your withering soul fresh again after tonight? Healing begins with trust, and trust is built on undeniable evidence of love. God did not abandon John in prison, and He does not abandon you in the dark night. His answer echoes through thousands of years, crossing all space and time to come to your bedside right now. I am here. I am working. Everything is under my control. Be at peace. We have just walked through eloquent proofs of Jesus' peerless power. He appears as a figure of authority, moving mountains and filling seas, changing natural laws. But the most miraculous thing about Jesus does not lie only in that invincible strength. The thing that melts the human heart, the thing that makes Him closer to our sleep than anyone else, lies in His origin. A being of such power chose a beginning that could not be humbler. From the height of healing power, where the blind see and the dead rise, our minds are suddenly led back in time, leaving the noisy crowds to return to a quiet winter night in Bethlehem. There, the secret of true peace is hidden not in a magnificent palace, but in the form of a tiny infant. To truly understand why Jesus can bring you a good night's sleep tonight, we need to rewind the tape of His life, step back behind the earth-shattering miracles, step back behind the cheering crowds to return to the starting point. It was a silent winter night in Bethlehem. Why is this memory important for your sleep? Because the human mind often fears power. If God came as a general riding a war horse with a flashing sword, we might be in awe, but we would hardly be able to relax and sleep soundly beside Him. But God, in His infinite wisdom, chose an entrance into the world that could not be gentler. He came as a baby. There is nothing threatening, nothing judgmental in a newborn. There is only purity, softness, and a loving invitation. Let your imagination drift to the Judean hills of that year. The night was late. Cold winds swept across the grassy fields. The shepherds, poor laborers, tired and sleepy just like you right now, were keeping watch over their flocks. They were the ones forgotten by society, working while others slept. God chose them, the night owls, to entrust the first message of peace. Suddenly, the night was torn apart by heavenly light. The silence was broken, not by the thunder of wrath, but by a symphony of hope. Listen to the angels' words reassuring their fear and your own. Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. And then a multitude of the heavenly host joined in the greatest hymn in history. Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests. Peace on earth. That is the gift Jesus brings. He does not bring an additional religious burden. He brings peace. Follow the footsteps of the shepherds into the place where the Lord was born. Not a magnificent palace, but a cave, a stable. Feel the space there through your senses, the pungent scent of straw, the warmth radiating from gentle animals, the dim yellow light casting from a small oil lamp. And there, lying in a rough manger, is the creator of the universe, sleeping soundly in the form of a tiny infant. This image possesses immense therapeutic power. It tells you, greatness does not need to be noisy. Holiness can be present in the simplest of places. You do not need to tidy up your soul to be magnificent, clean, or perfect to dare invite God in. He is ready to dwell in the messy, cluttered, poorest parts of your heart, just as he chose that manger long ago. Gaze upon the infant Jesus. He also needed to be swaddled, needed warmth, and closed his eyes to sleep peacefully. Jesus experienced the weakness of human flesh from his very first breath. He understands the cold. He understands the cramped spaces. He understands the human condition. Therefore, when you say, "God, I am tired," he does not look down at you from on high with distant eyes. He looks at you with the empathy of one who once lay in a manger, who was once flesh and blood. Tonight, let your mind become that little Bethlehem. Let the noisy worries outside stop at the door. In your bedroom, create a quiet space like that ancient cave. You're safe. No Herod is chasing you here. No work pressure is bothering you now. Only the soothing presence of Emmanuel. That presence requires nothing of you. You do not need to try to sleep. You only need to behold and receive. Just as the shepherds simply came and looked, and their hearts were filled with joy and peace. Let the peace of that first Christmas night permeate every cell, soothing every tense muscle of yours. Jesus came to the world to bring reconciliation, reconciliation between man and God, and reconciliation between man and himself. In that reconciliation, there is no room for anxiety or torment. There is only grace. Grace is like a warm blanket covering you in the winter night. When we look into the manger, we see the promise of a new beginning. No matter how terrible your day was, no matter how many mistakes you made, the birth of Jesus reminds us, light has come into the world, and the darkness cannot extinguish it. Tomorrow, when the sun rises, will be a new beginning. For now, your only task is to rest in the assurance of that unconditional love. That infant grew up. The tiny hands that once held Mary's finger would later be the hands spread wide to embrace broken lives. And from the lips of that infant, when fully grown, was uttered the greatest invitation in human history, an invitation reserved specifically for those who are exhausted like you. From the holy silence of the Bethlehem manger, that infant grew up, carrying the fullness of human empathy and the power of God. He walked amidst the dust, seeing through the invisible burdens crushing human shoulders, to then raise an invitation, not a command, but the gentlest escape for the soul. From the manger in Bethlehem, that infant grew up, carrying within himself full humanity and divinity. He walked throughout Galilee, seeing the crowds following him. But unlike the gaze of ordinary people, Jesus saw not only faces, he saw souls. He saw behind the forced smiles were bleeding hearts. He saw behind the busyness of making a living were spirits exhausted by the burden of harsh religious laws, social pressures, and the worries of daily bread. Perhaps he is seeing you right now. He sees you trying to be strong by day, but crumbling when night falls. He sees that the fatigue lies not only in the muscles, but deep within the mind, where negative thoughts loop endlessly. And in that deep empathy, Jesus spread wide his arms and uttered the gentlest yet most powerful invitation in human history. Listen, as if he were sitting right beside this fire and speaking privately to you. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. This is not a command. This is an escape. Pay attention to the opening phrase, come to me. He does not say go do good deeds, try harder, or fix yourself before coming back. No, he simply says, come. This invitation breaks down every barrier. You do not need a VIP ticket. You do not need excellent spiritual achievements. You only need to come as your authentic self, tired, stained, and full of imperfections. In a world that demands you become someone to be accepted, Jesus invites you to come just to be yourself. God names your state precisely, weary and burdened. Weary here is the exhaustion from excessive effort, without seeing results toil. It is the feeling of burnout of modern humanity, and burdened refers to things others or life pile onto your shoulders, family expectations, debt, responsibilities, or even past traumas. You are carrying a backpack of boulders on a steep path, and God says, I know, I see how heavy it is. Having the Creator acknowledge your pain is the first step of healing. You do not need to pretend to be okay before Him. And here is the promise, I will give you rest. In Greek, this word rest is not just sleep, but anapausis, restoration, renewal, the cessation of hopeless efforts. God promises you not just biological sleep, but rest for your souls. When the soul rests, physical sleep will naturally follow. It is an active rest, where you actively surrender control to God. But how do you receive that rest? God offers a very strange image. Take my yoke upon you. The yoke is the wooden beam placed on the shoulders of two oxen so they can pull the plow together. Why wear a yoke when you are already tired? The secret lies here. Jesus is not standing on the sidelines watching you pull the plow. He is inviting you to put your head into the same yoke with Him. He is the strong, magnificent ox, and you are the small, weak one. When yoked with Him, He is the one bearing all the weight. You simply walk in rhythm beside Him. Your burden becomes light, not because the problems vanish, but because the Almighty is carrying it with you. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. The yoke of the world is the pressure to succeed, to be wealthy, to be perfect. It chafes and scrapes your shoulders. But God's yoke is love, is grace. It is carved to fit your shoulders perfectly, lined with gentleness and humility. Tonight, by this imaginary fire, I want you to perform an act of faith. Imagine you are taking that heavy backpack off your shoulders. What does it contain? Worries about tomorrow? Regrets about yesterday? Unresolved anger? Take them out one by one and place them into Jesus' hands. He is spreading His hands, waiting. He is not afraid of your burdens. He is strong enough to carry this whole world, so your worries are nothing compared to His power. Every time you exhale, whisper, I give you this worry. Every time you inhale, whisper, I receive your peace. It is a miraculous exchange. You give Him ashes. He gives you a crown of beauty. You give him helplessness. He gives you new strength. Do not keep anything for yourself tonight. Let the invitation, "Come to me," echo in your subconscious, lulling you to sleep. You are safe because you are yoked with the one who has overcome the world. Where he goes, you go. And where he leads you is surely to green pastures and quiet waters. But for this peace to truly take root, for this invitation to transform into deep sleep, we need one final step. It is the confirmation of trust, the act of closing your eyes and completely letting go to step into the realm of dreams guarded by God. When the burden has been handed over and the shoulders are light, we have no reason to continue straining to keep watch. The invitation has been accepted, and now is the time for the soul to step through the door of absolute trust, to enter a state of deep rest. Now, we return to this fireside. Do you hear it? The crackling sound of the burning wood has faded, leaving only glowing embers radiating a gentle, enduring warmth. That is also the state of your mind right now. The fierce flames of anxiety, of the day's haste, have died down. Only the warm silence of the divine presence remains. You have heard the echoes from the prison, seen the evidence of healing, visited the humble manger, and received the invitation to share the yoke with God. Now is the time for the final and most important act: surrender. Surrender is not capitulation to adversity. Surrender is the victory of faith. It is the moment you courageously admit, "God, this world is too vast for me to control on my own. And tonight, I choose to trust in you rather than believe in my fears." Imagine yourself curling up in a soft blanket, a blanket woven by the eternal promises of Jesus. He does not just invite you to rest for a moment. He gives you a precious legacy to carry into sleep. Listen to his parting gift before you sink into dreams. The words he spoke to reassure his bewildered disciples, and now intended for you. "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Not as the world gives." The peace of the world is very fragile. It depends on bank accounts, health, and favorable conditions. When storms come, that peace vanishes. But the peace God bestows is shalom, a wholeness from within. It exists even when storms are roaring outside the window. It is a lighthouse standing firm amidst the raging sea. When you close your eyes tonight, you're not entering indefinite darkness. You're stepping into the safety zone of that shalom. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Command your heartbeat to slow down. Tell the tense muscles on your forehead, around your eyes, and your shoulders, "All right, rest now. God is keeping watch." You no longer need to be on guard. In God's kingdom, the sleep of his children is guarded by angelic armies. Imagine every breath you take now is like the rhythm of waves gently lapping against the sand. Inhale. Receive protection. Exhale. Let go of all control. You are drifting, not drifting aimlessly, but drifting on the river of God's grace. That river is gently carrying you away from the shores of worry, taking you deeper into the still waters of restorative sleep. In this place, the past cannot torment you. The future cannot threaten you. There is only this holy present moment where you are completely enveloped in love. Feel this absolute safety, like a child sleeping soundly in the back seat of a car driven by their father. The child does not worry about gas, the route, or obstacles. They sleep well because they know their father is at the wheel. Your life is the same. Tonight, leave the driver's seat. Get in the back seat, cover yourself with a blanket, and sleep. Jesus is driving your life. He knows the way. He knows the destination. and He promises to bring you home safely. When your eyelids grow heavy, let the final thought lingering in your mind not be tomorrow's deadline, but the image of Jesus sitting by your bed, smiling as He watches you sleep. That gaze holds forgiveness for every mistake you made today. That gaze holds the power to solve every problem you will face tomorrow. In that presence, sleep is no longer an escape, but a recharging of divine energy. Now, let darkness cover you, but do not fear the darkness, for with God, the night shines as the day. The darkness tonight is just a velvet curtain God pulls down so you can have privacy with Him. Let your subconscious be cleansed. Let your dreams be sanctified. We have completed the first leg of the journey. From the cry for help in the prison to peace by the fireside. You are safe. You are loved. You are forgiven. Sleep. Sleep in the arms of the Good Shepherd. But my friend, this peace is just the beginning. To maintain this state of peace amidst a volatile world, so that your mind is not swept away by the whirlpool of life when dawn breaks, Jesus does not only lull you to sleep. In your dreams tonight, He will lead you up a mountain where He will reveal great secrets about a completely different lifestyle. A lifestyle that reverses all conventional thinking, where the weakest things become invincible strength. And when the breathing has become steady, when the mind has surrendered to sweet sleep, our subconscious begins to open up a new horizon. Leaving the warm fireside, our souls follow His call to step onto the Mount of Beatitudes, where Jesus will redraw the map of happiness and peace through the greatest paradoxes of the kingdom of heaven. We have just left behind the warmth of the fire and the comforting soothing of sleep. But for that sleep not to be merely a temporary escape, but sustainable restoration, our minds need to be taken to a higher place. In this gentle subconsciousness, imagine you are following Jesus, leaving the cramped plains to step onto a lush, green mountain. The wind here is fresh. The space is open. Here, He does not perform miracles of physical healing, but He performs a major surgery on the mindset. He begins to draw a completely new map of happiness, a paradoxical map, also known as the Kingdom of Paradox. What does the world out there, the place that exhausts you every day, teach us? They say, "Blessed are the rich, for they hold control. Blessed are the strong, for they are not bullied. Blessed are those who always smile, for they are successful people." Those standards unintentionally become invisible bars imprisoning us. We lose sleep for fear of poverty, fear of being weak, fear of sadness. We tense ourselves to wear perfect masks. But on this mountain, the voice of Jesus rings out, shattering those chains of pressure with heart-shaking declarations. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Let each of these words permeate deep into your weary mind. First, blessed are the poor in spirit. This is the greatest liberation for your ego. The world forces you to be full of confidence, full of knowledge, full of bravery. But God says, no, you are blessed when you know you are lacking. Before going to sleep is the best time to practice this poverty. It is when you admit, God, I do not know what tomorrow will be like. I am not strong enough to shoulder everything. That confession does not make you inferior. On the contrary, it flings open the door for the kingdom of heaven to flood in. Only an empty cup can contain new water. Only a soul that knows it is poor can receive the richness of God's grace. You do not need to prove your worth in sleep. Just be poor. Be simple and let God be your sufficiency. Next, blessed are those who mourn. Have you ever tried to hold back tears for fear of being seen as weak? Society glorifies toxic positivity, forcing us to always smile. But Jesus, the one who understands human psychology most deeply, blesses sadness. If tonight the pressures of life make you want to cry, then just cry. Tears are a healing mechanism that God designed specifically for you, for they will be comforted. You can only feel the warm comfort of a hug when you dare to admit you are in pain. Do not wear a mask of strength to bed. Take it off. Your vulnerability, under God's gaze, is a divine invitation for Him to come close and soothe you. And then, blessed are the meek. Meek is not weak. In the original language, this word is used to describe a powerful war horse that has been tamed, knowing how to control its strength. The world teaches you to fight, to trample on each other to seize positions. That makes your mind always like a battlefield, even when sleeping. But God teaches a different way. Gentleness is what inherits the land. Lay down your sword and shield. You do not need to fight in your dreams. Peace belongs to those who know how to yield, who know how to step back to see the vast sky and ocean. Tonight, choose meekness. Forgive the noise of the world with the silence of your soul. Jesus continues to reverse the order of justice and mercy. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Pure in heart. Good sleep often comes to those with a clear conscience. Pure here does not mean you have never made a mistake, but that you have a simple motive, no calculation, no double-mindedness. When you cast off schemes, complex plans to keep a heart as simple as a child's, you will see God. You will see His presence in every breath, in the quietness of the night. These Beatitudes are not new laws for you to strive to achieve. They are declarations of a new reality. God is saying, "My child, you do not need to become a Superman to be loved. Right in your poverty, in your tears, in your meekness, I have seen blessing." This is a revolution of the mindset. When you change your perception of success and happiness, the burden on your shoulders naturally disappears. You no longer have the pressure to win at life. You just need to live and experience God's grace. God's kingdom is a kingdom of paradoxes. The way up is the way down. The way to receive is to give. And the way to find strength is to acknowledge weakness. As you lie in bed tonight, let these paradoxes lull you to sleep. You are safe when you are weak in God's hands. You are rich when you hold nothing but God. And you are happy, not because everything is smooth, but because God is with you in every circumstance. But, my friend, to maintain this blessed state of mind, we must face a greater enemy, not on the outside, but hiding right within our own hearts. Those are the simmering angers, the unnamed insecurities. Jesus does not stop at defining happiness. He pierces through to the deepest corners of the soul to surgically remove the tumors of negative emotions. After redefining happiness and removing the pressure of external success, Jesus leads us deeper inside, into the inner room, where the undercurrents of anger and animosity are hidden. For sleep to be complete, we need not only comfort, but also a new law for the heart, where love has the power to neutralize all toxins of the soul. We often think the enemy of sleep is external noise, streetlights, or a pillow that isn't soft enough. But in the silence of the night, when everything outside has shut down, another sound rises, noisy and persistent. The voice of resentment, unfinished arguments, hurtful words someone threw at you, or the feeling of injustice. They are like needle pricks, causing you to toss and turn, shifting from side to side. On the Mount of Beatitudes, Jesus does not avoid this issue. He does not merely offer superficial soothing advice. He picks up the scalpel and goes straight to the source of insecurity. He knows that the old law, ordinary moral rules, is not enough to bring true peace. The ancients taught, "You shall not murder." And we often feel complacent. "Oh, I am a good person. I have never killed anyone. I deserve to sleep well." But Jesus, with a gaze that pierces the soul, raised the standard to a new height, a height that startles us, but is the very key to liberating the spirit. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, "You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment." But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Why does God equate anger with murder? It sounds too severe, but look at it from a psychotherapeutic perspective. When you nurse anger in your heart, you are killing harmony, killing joy, and most importantly, you are killing your own peace. Anger is like drinking poison, but expecting the other person to die. The first victim tonight is not the one who hurt you, but you yourself, the one lying here, heart racing, breathing heavily with rage. Jesus wants you to understand, peace cannot coexist with resentment. To sleep well, you need a cleansing. He does not forbid you from feeling angry. That is a natural reflex. But he warns against nursing the anger. Tonight, God's word gently reminds you, "My child, drop that burning coal. It is burning your hand." But God does not stop there. He continues to offer a greater challenge, a paradox so profound it goes completely against human survival instincts, yet is the pinnacle of liberation. You have heard that it was said, "Love your neighbor and hate your enemy." But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Love your enemies. Perhaps you will resist. "God, this is too hard. They deceived me, betrayed me. How can I love them?" But wait, understand the word love, agape. Here in God's way, loving enemies does not mean you have to agree with the evil they do, or let them continue to trample on you. Love here is a decision of the will, a decision to cut the chain binding you to them. When you hate someone, you let them possess your mind. They enter your sleep. They sit at your meals. You become a slave to negative emotions about them. The teaching, "Love your enemies," is actually a declaration of independence for your soul. When you choose to forgive, you regain control of your life. You strip them of the power to hurt you. And the most specific advice for your sleep is, pray for those who persecute you. This is the most effective sleeping pill. You cannot pray to bless someone and hate them at the same time. The act of prayer changes the brain's vibrational frequency, shifting from a fight state to a love state. Try practicing this right now in your mind. Visualize the face of the person troubling you the most. Do not avoid it. Look at them. And instead of throwing curses at them, whisper, "God, I hand this person over to you. Please handle the injustices in your way. As for me, I choose peace. I pray for them to realize the truth, and I forgive them so I can be free." The moment you utter that forgiveness, even if just in thought, you will feel like a 1,000-pound boulder has been lifted from your chest. Your clenched hands will loosen. The jaw muscles that were grinding will soften. That is the new law of God's kingdom, the law of freedom. Jesus does not want you bringing a courtroom into your sleep. He wants your bedroom to be a sanctuary of grace. He forgave you on the cross, so why imprison yourself in the prison of unforgiveness? Remember, forgiveness is not a gift you give to the enemy, but a gift you give to yourself. It is the key to opening the door of the emotional prison, to step out and breathe the air of freedom. In God's kingdom of paradox, the strongest is not the one who takes the most revenge, but the one who can sleep the soundest, because their heart is no longer entangled with the dust of hatred. When the heart has been surgically cleared of the tumors of the past, when relationships with others have been placed in God's hands, we suddenly realize a new void, a quiet and clear void. But the human mind is very good at filling voids with new worries. If the past is settled, it starts worrying about the future. What to eat tomorrow? What to wear? Where's the money to live? And Jesus, the devoted guide, has prepared the next medicine for this disease of worrying ahead. When the fire of anger is extinguished and the wounds from relationships have been bandaged with forgiveness, our minds become strangely light. But in the darkness, there remains another hidden enemy, one that steals the joy of the present with ghosts of the future. Jesus gently directs our gaze from the wounds inside to the vast fields outside, where wildflowers are whispering a great lesson on letting go of worry. My dear friend, when night falls, an uninvited guest often visits our minds, named anxiety. He does not speak of what has happened. He whispers about what has not yet happened. What will tomorrow be like? What if work goes wrong? Where will the money come from for next month's bills? What if my health fails? The what-if questions run around like a jammed tape, stealing the peace of the present moment. On the Mount of Beatitudes, under the open sky of Galilee, Jesus sees through this age-old fear of humanity. He does not lecture on economic principles or risk management. He does something much simpler. He points to nature. He invites us to take our eyes off the numbers and plans, to look at small creatures living full lives under the protection of the Heavenly Father. His voice rings out, gentle as a breeze, but solid as a rock. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Do not worry. This is not empty advice like, cheer up. It is a loving command based on the logic of the kingdom. Jesus asks, is life not worth more than food? We often swap concepts. We worry about the accessories of life, clothes, vehicles, status, and forget to care for the core of life, which is the soul and peace. Tonight, do not let those accessories steal your sleep, the most essential thing to sustain your life. Then Jesus turns his eyes to the sky. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Visualize the tiny sparrows. They have no savings accounts, no life insurance, no food stored in barns. By human standards, they are the most destitute and at risk. But have you ever seen a bird lose sleep worrying about what to eat tomorrow? No. They sing every morning and sleep well every night. Why? Because they trust the universe's supply chain. Jesus asks, are you not much more valuable than they? This is an argument from the lesser to the greater. If the Creator cares for every meal of a sparrow, would he forget you, one created in his image? Your worry is actually a doubt about your own value in God's eyes. And then the most beautiful, romantic, and healing image appears: the lilies of the field. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Consider. Let your mind visualize a field of colorful wildflowers. How do they grow? Do they toil or spin? No. They do not strain. They do not try to prove themselves. They simply stand there, rooting deep into the earth, receiving sunlight and rain, then naturally blooming in exquisite beauty. Their beauty is so radiant that King Solomon, in his utmost wealth, could not compare. What is the lesson here? It is the power of trust. Human anxiety and striving often wither us. We try to spin our future with worry, but the result is just tangled knots. God invites you to live like that flower. Let go of control. Let God's life flow through you. Sleep is the time you become that flower, completely passive, completely receiving, letting God regenerate energy and beauty for you. Jesus concludes the matter with a theorem on time, helping to sever immediately the toxic link with the future. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Each day has enough trouble of its own. God is realistic. He does not promise a life without difficulties, but He teaches us how to compartmentalize difficulties. Do not pile the burden of tomorrow, the day after, or next month onto tonight. Your shoulders are designed to carry only the present. Tonight is for sleep, not for solving tomorrow's problems. Return tomorrow to tomorrow. Or rather, return tomorrow to God, the only one living in tomorrow and waiting for you there. Practice this act of letting go right now. Imagine every worry is a stone you are clutching in your hand. Unpaid bill, the first stone. An important meeting tomorrow, the second stone. Parents' health, the third stone. Now look, Jesus is spreading His hand out. Place each stone into His hand. He receives them, not to store them away, but to turn them into flowers. He has the power to turn lack into provision, like feeding the birds, and nakedness into beauty, like clothing the lilies. Only when your hands are empty can you hold God's hand to enter sleep. Peace does not come from knowing the future, but from knowing who holds the future. Your Heavenly Father knows what you need before you ask. He knows you need the sleep. Therefore, close your eyes with peace of mind. This universe still operates smoothly, even without your supervision. Your mind is now freed from the past, anger, and the future, anxiety. It has become empty and ready, like a piece of land cleared of weeds and thorns. This is the golden time to sow new seeds of truth into it. Because if we do not actively sow good seeds, weeds will grow again. And Jesus, the great teacher, begins to tell parables, seeds of wisdom to completely reshape how we receive life. When worries about tomorrow have been sent away with the birds of the air and returned to the field of wildflowers, our souls return to a state of primal silence, like a fertile field after a cleansing rain. But what good is good soil without seeds? Jesus, the diligent farmer of the soul, begins to walk upon that field of the mind, sowing parables full of meaning, helping us understand the true nature of reception and growth. After letting go of worries about tomorrow, your mind is now like a piece of land resting under the night sky. But what will grow on that land? Peace or chaos? That depends on what we sow into it and how we treat what is growing. Jesus, with absolute wisdom, used the most familiar agrarian imagery to decode the operating mechanism of our souls through a series of parables about the kingdom of heaven. First, listen to the parable of the sower. A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path. Some fell on rocky places. Other seed fell among thorns. Still other seed fell on good soil. Why is this parable important for your sleep? Because every night when you lie down, you're opening your mind to receive seeds. Those seeds could be the negative news you just read, the criticism from your boss, or God's promise of peace. The state of your mind, the soil will determine which seeds germinate. Perhaps after a long day colliding with harsh society, your heart has become callous like the path, preventing peace from penetrating. Or perhaps your heart is full of rocky places, impulsive emotions, happy, then sad, with no deep root to anchor the stillness. Or more dangerously, your mind is full of thorns, which are the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth, choking your sleep. But tonight, through this guided meditation, we are tilling the soil of the soul together. We pick out the stones of superficiality. We clear away the thorny bushes of anxiety. We turn our hearts into good soil, soft, light, and ready to receive. When God's word falls on this good soil during sleep, it will silently sprout and bear fruit of restoration 30, 60, even 100 times by the next morning. You do not need to do anything. Just keep your heart soft. However, there is another harsh reality we often evade, and this evasion causes insomnia. It is the existence of negativity right within ourselves. We torment ourselves because we are not good enough, because we still have bad habits. And here, the parable of the weeds appears as an antidote to perfectionism. God tells us, "The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away." While everyone was sleeping, the enemy, negative thoughts, temptations, often attacks when we are negligent. And when the wheat, goodness, grows, the weeds, evil, grow with it. Our usual reaction as impatient servants is panic and wanting to pull up the weeds immediately. Why do I have this evil thought? Why is this terrible thing happening? We stay awake all night trying to uproot every problem, every flaw in our lives. But listen to the shocking words of the Master. "No," he answered, "because while you are pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest." Let both grow together. This is a shocking but merciful mindset. God knows we are living in a fallen world, and we ourselves are not yet complete. If tonight you try to use your own strength to destroy every weed, troubles, bad habits, conflicts, you might hurt your own wheat, health, joy, and peace. You will be exhausted before solving the problem. God's advice for sleep is, accept imperfection. Tonight, look at the garden of your life. Perhaps you see the heavy heads of wheat of success, but beside them are still the weeds of failure, of debt, of unhealed relationships. Do not panic. Do not try to rush out to the garden to pull weeds in the middle of the night. Leave them there. God says, "Leave that to me. At the harvest, I will handle it." The pinnacle of trust is the ability to sleep well even when weeds are still growing in your garden. You trust that the great Master has enough power and wisdom to sort them at the right time. Your task is not to be the judge of yourself every night. Your task is to sleep and let the wheat grow through grace. This acceptance brings a strange relaxation. You do not need to be a flawless human being to be loved by God. You are allowed to be a work in progress. Your flaws, your unresolved issues, are all under the control of the Most High. Take a deep breath. Visualize yourself standing before the garden of your mind. Say to the weeds, "I know you are there, but tonight I will not fight you. I hand you over to my Master," and then you turn your back, step into the peaceful room, close the door, and go to sleep. When we stop fighting ourselves, stop tormenting ourselves about flaws, we create a large space in the soul. That space needs to be filled not only with acceptance, but with an unconditional love. A love capable of healing all brokenness and bringing the lost home. Jesus continues to lead us to the most moving stories of grace, where all prejudices are broken. Having learned to live in peace with our own flaws and entrust judgment to God, the burden of perfection is lifted. But deep down, we still crave an assurance that, no matter how many weeds we have, we are still loved and accepted. And to answer that craving, Jesus tells two beautiful stories about the road home and humanity amidst adversity. My dear friend, we have learned to accept the weeds, the imperfections in the garden of our soul. But that acceptance is sometimes accompanied by a sense of inferiority. Does God really love someone as flawed as me? Do I still deserve peace after past mistakes? These questions often rise strongest when night falls, when the noise of the world is no longer loud enough to drown out the voice of conscience. To answer that nagging uncertainty, Jesus tells us the most beautiful story about fatherhood, the story of the prodigal son. Put yourself in the younger son's shoes. Perhaps you have squandered your time, health, and God's grace on futile things. You feel you have gone too far, that you have run out of capital to turn back. You lie in bed, rehearsing apologies in your head, bargaining with God. God, if you let me sleep well tonight, tomorrow I will do this, do that. You think you must become a hired servant to pay off your debt to God. But watch how the great paradox of love unfolds. When that son was dragging his heavy feet on the road home, full of dust and stench, what did the father do? But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. While he was still a long way off, the father never stopped looking down that road, and his action breaks all the solemn Jewish rules of that time. A dignified old father ran to welcome a spoiled child. In that culture, elders do not run, for running is a loss of dignity. But Jesus wants to tell you, God is willing to set aside his dignity to run to you. He does not wait for you to wash up before hugging you. He hugs you while you are still stained with mud. He does not let you finish your prepared apology speech. He interrupts you with a command of restoration. Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. The robe is righteousness, the ring is sonship, and the sandals are freedom. Tonight, you are no longer sleeping in the pigpen of torment. You are sleeping in the Father's house. Every mistake of the past has been erased by the Heavenly Father's embrace. The peace you have is not because you are good, but because your Father is so merciful. Let that feeling of being unconditionally forgiven lull you to sleep. You are home. But God's love does not stop at the vertical dimension between father and son, but spreads to the horizontal between people. Sometimes the reason we lose sleep is due to wounds inflicted by others, or the apathy we witness daily. The story of the Good Samaritan appears as a healing remedy for faith in humanity. A traveler was beaten half to death by the roadside. Priests and Levites, symbols of religion and rigid law, passed by but avoided him. They represent the moral pressures you often face, those who only judge but do not help. But then a Samaritan one considered a foreigner, a stranger stopped. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. Tonight, imagine Jesus is that Good Samaritan, and you are the injured traveler. Perhaps you have been beaten, tattered by life, betrayal, failure, loneliness. You lie there by the roadside of life, exhausted and unable to stand up on your own. Religion cannot save you. Philosophy cannot save you. But Jesus stopped. He is not afraid of the uncleanliness of your wound. He bends down, pouring on oil and wine, wine to disinfect, cleanse sin, and oil to soothe pain, soothe the soul. He bandages the broken places in your heart. He gives up his place on the donkey to carry you to a place of rest, the inn. This story redefines the concept of neighbor. A neighbor is not the person living next door, but the one who had mercy. And in this universe, the nearest neighbor, the one closest to your pain, is Jesus. Ending Act 2, we see a complete picture of the kingdom of paradox. The poor possess the kingdom. Enemies are loved instead of hated. Wildflowers are cared for better than kings. Weeds are allowed to exist with wheat. The prodigal son is welcomed like a prince, and the Most High bows down to serve the wounded. All these paradoxes have one single purpose: to liberate you from the burden of self-reliance. You do not need to do it all yourself. You do not need to be perfect. You are enveloped by a thick and safe system of grace. Your mind is now completely detoxified. Toxic thoughts causing insomnia have been replaced by the truth of peace. Your soul has been washed clean, clothed in a new robe, and is resting in the inn of love. But the journey is not over. The spiritual world is not just the silence of the mountain or the warmth of the home. Outside, the sea is still roaring, and the storms of life are waiting to rise. To protect your sleep absolutely, you need not only a merciful Father, but a powerful King who can command the wind and waves to be silent. We need to witness the true power of the one we are relying on. It is time to leave the soothing sermons to step into the eye of the storm, where the power of Jesus will shine most brilliantly. When the soul has been healed by grace and the mindset enlightened by great paradoxes, we feel a deep peace seeping into every corner of memory. But for this peace to stand firm against the real waves of life, we need more than comforting words. We need absolute power. Let us step down into the boat, out into the deep waters, where mighty miracles are waiting to prove that. The one lulling you to sleep is the very one who rules this universe. We have just left the Mount of Beatitudes with lessons as gentle as morning dew. But you and I both know, life is not always green pastures. There are days when, just as the sun sets, storms strike without warning. That is when philosophies seem to vanish, leaving only naked fear. To make your sleep tonight truly solid, we cannot avoid the storm. We must go through it, but this time, we do not go alone. Let your mind drift along with the wooden boat of Jesus and the disciples. It was late afternoon. Darkness began to cover the vast lake of Galilee. You are on that boat. Perhaps your boat is this bedroom, a teetering business, or precarious health. At first, everything seems peaceful, but then a furious squall strikes. Waves broke over the boat. Water flooded in. The boat rocked as if about to shatter. Do you feel that shaking in your life? That is the feeling of loss of control. That is when bad news comes rushing in. Pressures weigh down, making you feel like you are drowning. Heart beating fast, breathing rapid, and the first thought appears, it's over. I won't make it. The disciples' seasoned fishermen were also in extreme panic. They used all their strength to bail water, to row, but it was hopeless. Life's storms are often stronger than human endurance, and in the peak of that despair, they remembered a person. They ran toward the stern. And here is the most shocking image, an image completely contrasting the chaos outside. Jesus was sleeping. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. He was sleeping. Amidst the roaring wind, amidst the swaying waves, he still slept soundly on a cushion. Why? Was he heartless? No. He slept because he possessed an inner peace greater than the storm outside. He slept because he knew clearly who held control of this ocean. The image of God sleeping in the storm is the anchor for your soul tonight. If the one who is in the boat with you, the one who is in your heart, can sleep well, then why must you stay awake to fear? His peace is an invitation. He wants to say, "My child, I am not worried, so you do not need to worry either." But the disciples, in human weakness, woke him and shouted the question that perhaps you have also whispered in sleepless nights. "Teacher, don't you care if we drown? Don't you care?" When storms come, the devil often sows doubt in our heads about God's love. But look at how he reacts. He did not blame them for waking him. He did not look at the fierce waves and panic. He stood up. In your mind, visualize Jesus standing up right in the center of the storm of your life. He stretches, facing the towering waves of anxiety, of debt, of sickness. And he speaks just one sentence, concise, full of authority. "Quiet, be still." Immediately, the wind died down, the waves calmed. Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. Let the phrase, "quiet, be still," echo in your head right now. Say to the thoughts racing in your brain, "Quiet." Say to the fast-beating heart, "Be still." God's power is not theory, it is a command. When he speaks, all chaos of nature must obey. The storm in your heart, no matter how fierce, is just a creature. It must bow before the Creator. The transition from furious squall to completely calm does not need to go through a gradual process. It can happen in a split second. Right at this moment, you can receive that absolute stillness. After the sea calmed, God turned to the disciples and asked, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" This question is not to judge, but to awaken. Why are you afraid? God wants to remind you, have you forgotten who is on the boat with you? Fear often comes from looking at the height of the waves instead of looking at the greatness of God. Faith is not believing that storms will not come, but believing that the boat will never sink because God is there. Tonight, you do not need to bail water out of the boat yourself anymore. You do not need to strain to row. Let go of the oars. Come lie down beside Jesus, the stern. Rest your head on his promise. The storm outside may still be growling, but inside this room, inside this chest, the power of the command, "Peace, be still," is covering you. You're safe, not because the sea is calm, but because the great God is guarding your sleep. This stillness is a gift, an assurance that no force in this universe can harm you when you are in his presence. But my friend, sometimes the most terrifying storm comes not from nature outside, but from the chaotic voices inside the mind. Obsessions, painful memories, negative streams of thought attack incessantly like an invading army, making our heads feel like they want to explode. Jesus not only has power over wind and waves, he also has absolute power over the dark spiritual world to liberate you from the imprisonment of those very chaotic thoughts. When the Lake of Galilee returned to being flat as a sheet, reflecting the gentle starlight, Jesus' boat and the disciples continued drifting to the other shore, to the region of the Gerasenes. There another confrontation awaited, not with soulless wind and waves, but with the storms of the psyche, where a human being was imprisoned by thousands of chaotic voices. The boat of peace has docked, but the place where Jesus sets foot is not a serene resort, but the land of cold tombs in the Gerasenes. There a miserable man lives a life in which, perhaps during our worst sleepless nights, we catch a glimpse of our own shadows. The Bible describes this man as living separated from the community, dwelling among the tombs, screaming day and night, and cutting himself with stones. Look deeper into this image from a psychological perspective. It is a portrait of a tortured mind. The chains of society could not bind him, but the invisible chains of torment, of negative voices in his head, held him tighter than ever. He hurt himself just as we torment ourselves every night, with thoughts of regret, self-reproach, and fear. That is the self-destruction of the soul. When that man saw Jesus from afar, a violent conflict occurred. The part of him yearning for healing wanted to run to God, but the darkness possessing him wanted to flee, and a piercing scream rang out, shattering the silence of the coast. "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torture me. Don't torture me." How ironic. The presence of light causes pain to darkness. Sometimes letting go of negative thought habits also hurts and scares us because we are too accustomed to that pain. We fear change, even if it is a change for the better. But Jesus did not back down. He looked straight into those wild eyes and asked a defining question: "What's your name?" The man's answer is one of the most haunting lines in the Bible, yet it most accurately depicts the state of an overloaded head. "My name is Legion, for we are many." Legion. In Roman times, a legion consisted of up to 6,000 soldiers. Imagine inside this man's head, there were 6,000 voices screaming and competing at the same time. And my dear friend, is the name of your mind tonight also Legion? It is not just one worry. It is a synthesis of thousands of things: work deadlines, family conflicts, financial pressures, war news, fear of disease. They jostle, shove, and trample on each other in your brain, creating a noisy mess that makes it impossible for you to close your eyes. They are a chaotic crowd occupying the territory of peace. But watch what Jesus does with this legion. He does not argue with each demon. He does not sit and untangle every single thought. He uses the supreme authority of the Creator to issue an order of expulsion. When the demons begged to enter a herd of pigs feeding on the hillside, he permitted it. And then the image of 2,000 pigs rushing down the steep bank into the lake and drowning is a powerful symbolic image of cleansing. Visualize it. All the garbage thoughts, the chaotic noise, the filthy obsessions clinging to you. Jesus is gathering them. He expels them from your mind. He casts them into the deep sea. The water washes everything away. The screaming disappears. The chaos is drowned. After that shock, a beautiful scene appears. A scene I want you to take as the destination for your sleep tonight. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there dressed and in his right mind. Pay attention to these three precious details. Sitting there. Instead of running, jumping, and screaming incessantly, he is now sitting quietly. That is physical rest. Dressed. Instead of being naked and hurting himself, he is covered, protected, and his dignity is restored. That is emotional rest. In his right mind. This is the most important thing. Legion has vanished. His mind has returned to being his own clear, lucid, and peaceful. Tonight, that liberating power remains fully effective. Jesus is standing at the door of your soul. He knows you are tired of your overloaded head. He says, "Give that legion to me." You do not need to fight those thoughts yourself. You only need to agree to let God drive them away. Imagine God placing his cool hand on your forehead. Where his hand touches, the heat of anxiety cools down. The noisy voices are forced to be silent and leave. The space in your head is now restored to its inherent silence. It is like a room that has just been cleaned, airy and cool. You are sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed in his peace, and enjoying the wonderful feeling of a right mind. A lucid mind is not a mind that is thinking, but a mind that knows how to rest at the right time. This liberation brings a deep and dreamless sleep. Nightmares no longer have power over you, for Legion has been drowned. You are free. You are restored. You are yourself, the most peaceful version God created. When the mind has been freed from chaos and the soul has found stillness, we suddenly realize that we still carry a physical body with practical needs. One cannot preach to a hungry stomach. The worry about food, clothing, and money, about material lack for the future, remains a realistic burden. Jesus not only heals the spirit, he is also the great provider for every need of life. From the desolate land of the Gerasenes, we follow him to another hillside where a miracle of abundance is waiting to soothe human anxiety about lack. Leaving the Gerasene coast with a mind completely purified of chaotic noises, we feel as light as if a 1,000-pound burden has been lifted. But looking toward the future, another worry silently creeps in. The worry of lack. What shall we eat? How shall we live? Understanding that, Jesus leads us to a green pasture where he will turn the impossible into the possible through a miraculous feast. My dear friend, there is a cruel paradox of modern life. We work more and more, yet the feeling of safety becomes less and less. When night falls, after the noise of work subsides, a cold voice often whispers in our ears, "Do I have enough? Not enough money for bills, not enough health for the long haul, not enough ability to compete." The feeling of scarcity is like a black hole sucking out all positive energy, leaving behind emptiness and anxiety. To soothe this worry, let your mind leave the current room to go to a remote place by the shore of Lake Galilee. It is late afternoon. The sun is gradually setting behind the mountain ranges, dyeing the whole sky purple. A crowd of over 5,000 men, not counting women and children, are faint with hunger after a long day listening to Jesus teach. They are like you after a workday, tired, drained of energy, and needing to be recharged. The disciples, pragmatic and logical managers, offered the most reasonable solution according to human thinking. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food. This is how the world operates. Every man for himself. If you are hungry, you must find food yourself. If you are in need, that is your problem. This mindset makes us feel extremely lonely in the struggle for livelihood. But Jesus, the Good Shepherd, issued a command that completely reversed that order, a command challenging faith. They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. They do not need to go away. My friend, listen closely to these words. When you face difficulties or lack, God does not drive you away. He does not tell you, "Go out there and manage on your own, and come back to worship me when you are rich." No, he wants you to stay. He wants your needs to be met right in his presence. But what do we have? Like the disciples, we search our pockets and find only trivial things. We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. 5 loaves and 2 fish for thousands of people. It is too small, too ridiculous compared to the enormous demands of life. You look at your account balance, look at your limited strength, and sigh in despair. How can this meager capital be enough to care for the family? How can this humble ability be enough to overcome the challenge? Jesus does not criticize that small amount. He says, "Bring them here to me." This is the secret of financial peace. Do not hold tight to what you have, nor despise it. Place it in God's hands. The bread in your hand is just a lunch, but the bread in God's hand is a feast for thousands. The difference does not lie in the quantity, but in the holder. And then, a magnificent and peaceful scene unfolds. God commands everyone to sit down on the grass. The image of sitting down is an image of rest, of trust. They do not jostle. They do not compete. They sit down like honored guests, waiting for the host to serve the course. Tonight, you too sit down in your mind, relaxing your body on the soft bed like that green grass. Do not run back and forth in your thoughts anymore. The banquet is about to begin. Observe Jesus' action, a sacred ritual opening the door to abundance. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. He gave thanks. When did he give thanks? When the bread had not yet multiplied. He gave thanks when there were still only 5 tiny loaves in his hands. This is the golden key for your sleep. Gratitude precedes the miracle. Instead of lying, tossing, and turning, worrying about things you do not have, start thanking God for what you do have, no matter how small. Gratitude activates faith. Gratitude shifts your attention from earthly scarcity to heavenly supply. As he looked up to heaven, when God broke the bread, the miracle happened. The bread kept multiplying, multiplying endlessly through the giving hands of the disciples. Everyone ate and were satisfied. No one was left hungry. The needs of each person, from the elderly to young children, were fully met. But the most miraculous thing lies at the end. And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. Left over. Our God is not a God of just enough. He is the God of abundance. 12 full baskets, one for each disciple, serve as a tangible reminder that when you dare to surrender your worry and your scarcity to God, he always returns to you more than what you need. What does this story say to your sleep tonight? It says, tomorrow will be fine. You do not need to know exactly where the money will come from tomorrow. You only need to know the bread maker is with you. He is Jehovah Jireh, the provider. He knows you need to eat, need to be clothed, need to be safe. He cares about your hungry belly as much as he cares about your soul. Look at those 12 baskets of leftovers in your mind. That is the contingency fund God reserves for you. Worry cannot create a single extra loaf of bread, but faith and thanksgiving can open the treasury of the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, put aside the difficult economic problems. Put aside the balance sheet of life. Tonight, sleep soundly, like a child promised a gift by parents for the next morning. You have an infinitely rich Father, and he is incredibly generous. When the stomach is full and the heart is at peace about the material future, humans face another need, more complex and painful. The need to be accepted and protected against the spears of public opinion. There are nights we cannot sleep, not because of hunger, but because of judgments, social prejudices, or guilt surrounding us. Jesus is not only the provider, he is also the powerful advocate, ready to stand up and shield you from the stones thrown by the world. When the worry of food and clothing has been soothed by the abundant banquet in the wilderness, and faith in God's provision has become a soft pillow, we suddenly realize that storms come not only from nature or lack, but also from the human heart. Prying eyes, harsh judgments, and moral traps are waiting to throw stones at the weak soul. Amidst that encirclement of condemnation, Jesus steps out, not to condemn, but to create the greatest shield of grace in history. My dear friend, there is a kind of insomnia that comes not from a hungry stomach or a storm outside the window, but from a courtroom opened right within the mind. When night falls, we often become defendants before invisible judges. These can be the judgments of the world, society's harsh standards, or more cruelly, our own inner critic. It drags out old mistakes, shortcomings, and shame, screaming, "You're not good enough. You're guilty." Throughout his journey, Jesus always faced such judges. The Pharisees, representing the rigidity of religion and prejudice, constantly attacked him. They faulted him for healing on the Sabbath. They trapped him regarding taxes. They rejected him when he declared, "I am the light of the world." The conflict between light, truth, grace, and darkness, prejudice, law, became increasingly intense, and the peak of this confrontation took place one morning in the temple courts, a scene full of violence and humiliation that perhaps all of us have felt to some degree in life. They dragged before Jesus a woman caught in the act of adultery. Visualize her extreme fear. She was dragged into the middle of the crowd, perhaps with disheveled clothes and messy hair. She was thrown into the encirclement of scornful eyes and jagged stones in the hands of self-righteous men. She was stripped of all dignity, naked before judgment. She faced not only physical death, but also social death. This was a deadly trap. If Jesus spared her, he broke Moses' law. If he said to stone her, he lost the message of love. The noise of the crowd demanding stoning echoed. That is the sound of life's pressures backing you into a corner. Must punish, must pay the price, no forgiveness. But amidst the eye of that furious storm, Jesus did a strange thing. He did not argue. He stooped down. He used his finger to write on the ground. Jesus' silence completely contrasted with the crowd's noise. His action of stooping down cooled the hot heads of the accusers. He forced them to stop, to think, to look inside themselves instead of looking at another's faults. And then he stood up, looked straight at those holding stones in their hands, and uttered a sentence that has shaken the moral foundation of humanity for the past 2,000 years. Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. Without sin. This sentence was like lightning tearing through the night of hypocrisy. It turned the mirror around. Instead of reflecting the woman's sins, that mirror shone straight into the dark consciences of the accusers. In your bedroom tonight, this sentence also has the power to extinguish every condemning voice ringing in your head. Who is condemning you? Who is telling you that you are a failure? Who wants to throw stones at your dreams? Let God's word ask them back. No one on this earth, including yourself, is qualified to condemn a soul that God has chosen to love. The effect of those words was amazing. The Bible records, "At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first. They left. The stones dropped to the ground with a thud. The noise died out. Imagine the pressures, the complexes, the slander you are carrying, one by one, falling to the ground and leaving in the presence of God. The stone of regret falls. The stone of insecurity falls. Finally, only 2 people remained. The only one with the right to throw stones, because he was sinless, and the one deserving to be stoned. Jesus stood up and asked, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin. Neither do I condemn you." This is the most wonderful acquittal from the Supreme Court of the universe. My dear friend, if Jesus, the absolutely Holy One, does not condemn you, then why do you lie there tormenting yourself? Why do you allow the criticisms of others to steal your sleep? Jesus stood between you and the stones. He took the judgment on your behalf on the cross. Tonight, you are safe. you are enveloped in a stone-free zone. The best sleep is the sleep of one who knows they are forgiven. No punishment hangs over your head anymore. Today's mistakes, leave them at Jesus' feet, like that woman left her past. God's instruction to go now can be understood as, go into peaceful sleep, live a new life. Do not turn back to look at that pile of stones anymore. The liberation from guilt and social judgment brings immense relief to the soul. You feel cherished, your honor protected. But my friend, in the list of human fears, there remains a final boss, a most terrifying enemy that no one has escaped. It is not storms, not poverty, nor humiliation. It is death, the fear of human finitude, the pain of separating from loved ones. Can the power of Jesus reach this final boundary? For our sleep to be complete, we need a hope that transcends the grave. When the noise of the falling stones has completely died out and the peace of forgiveness has filled the heart, we think we have conquered all. But from afar, a father named Jairus runs up, bringing the coldest bad news humanity must face. Death has knocked on the door. Wailing cries ring out, challenging our faith to the very end. Will the warm fire of God be extinguished by the cold breath of death? My dear friend, in long sleepless nights, perhaps the deepest fear that makes us shudder is not losing a job or money, but the fear of losing a loved one, or the fear of our own finitude. Death, with its cold and decisive face, seems to be the period ending all hope. When the doctor shakes his head, when the breath fades, the world says, it's over, there's no cure. And precisely in that desperate circumstance, we meet Jairus, a synagogue leader. He is a man of status, but before the scythe of death looming over his little daughter's neck, he is just a helpless father. He did what many of us do when at a dead end. He ran and fell at Jesus' feet. But the drama lies not in the plea, but in the delay. While God was walking with him, a pressing crowd slowed his steps. Time passed, every moment like 1,000 needles piercing the Father's heart. And then the worst happened. People from his house came to report the news, a death sentence for all hope. Your daughter is dead. Why bother the teacher anymore? Why bother? Does this phrase sound familiar? It is the voice of realistic despair. When things have fallen apart, when opportunities have passed, when relationships have died, reason tells us, just give up. God cannot save this. It is too late. But look at Jesus' reaction. He heard that bad news, but he did not let it enter his heart. He turned to the stunned father and spoke a sentence that I want you to use as an anchor for your soul tonight. Don't be afraid. Just believe. Just believe. God did not say believe in miracles or believe in doctors. He said just believe. Believe in whom? Believe in him, the one standing right beside. Jesus wanted to say, Jairus, do not listen to the voice of circumstance. Do not look at that lifeless body. Look at me. I have the final word, not death. When arriving at the house, the scene was chaotic. Wailing cries, shrill funeral flutes. That is the noise of the world in the face of tragedy. Jesus stepped in and declared something shocking. Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep. Not dead, but asleep. They laughed at him. How could one not distinguish between death and sleep? But from the Creator's perspective, physical death is just a temporary sleep. To God, waking a dead person back to life is as easy as you waking your child up in the morning. The next important detail, he put all those who were laughing and crying outside. For a miracle to happen, for peace to reign, sometimes you must put out the noises of unbelief from the room of your mind. Do not let fear scream in your head anymore. closed the door, leaving only faith and Jesus. God stepped into the room where the child lay. The space was silent as a sheet. He did not perform elaborate magic. He did not strain himself. He simply took the girl's cold hand, the contact of life touching death, the warmth of heaven touching the cold of earth. And he spoke, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Little girl. He called death with the utmost affectionate tenderness. There is no fear here at all. Immediately, the girl stood up and walked. Life returned. Cheeks became rosy again. The father's extreme pain turned into extreme joy. What meaning does this story bring to your sleep tonight? It tells you it is never too late with God. Perhaps you are feeling that some part of your soul has died. Passion has died. Hope has died. Love has died. You think, why bother? But Jesus is standing by your bed tonight saying, "It is not dead. It is only sleeping. I can wake it up." And further still, this story liberates us from the fear of physical death. Every sleep tonight is a gentle rehearsal for the departure later. When you close your eyes to sleep, you let go of consciousness, let go of the world, trusting that tomorrow morning you will wake up. With Jesus, death is also just a long sleep, and the sound Talitha cum will be the call waking us up in the morning of eternal resurrection. Therefore, you do not need to fear darkness or uncertainty. The one holding the keys of life and death is with you. His hand, the hand that pulled Jairus' daughter up, is also holding your hand. He leads you through the valley of the shadow of death, fearing no evil. Let the image of Jesus holding the girl's hand be the final image in your mind before sinking into sleep. Feel the warmth from his hand. Hear him whisper, "My child, sleep. I am here. Everything is under my control. If even death must obey me, then what is your worry? We have witnessed it all. From the storm on the sea to demons in the mind, from hunger in the wilderness to stones of judgment, and finally, the cold grave. No force can stand against the power of Jesus' love. He is the absolute victor. But my friend, after the cheers of victory, after the earth-shattering miracles, the human soul still needs a private place to take shelter. We need to return to the most secret inner voice, where it is no longer a stage for crowds, but a deep inner room. That is where we face ourselves and whisper to God the lullabies of the soul. And no one understands the language of that inner voice better than David the shepherd, who became king, who tasted every range of emotion from despair to glory. Now, when the night has fully fallen, let David's verses in the Psalms become the most soothing background music, taking us into deep sleep. When the great miracles have closed and God's power has been affirmed in every area of life, the space suddenly becomes strangely quiet. Now there are no more crowds, no more storms, only you and God in the holiest privacy. This is the time for the voice of action to give way to the voice of confiding. Let your soul follow the ancient melodies of King David, the truest prayers from the bottom of the human heart, to be lulled to sleep in the comforting soothing of Act 4, the inner voice. My dear friend, the lights have gone out. The noises of the outside world, the miracles, the arguments, the crowds have receded. Now only you remain facing yourself in the darkness of the room. This is the most honest moment, but also the weakest moment of a human being. When the strong daytime armor is removed, the deepest feelings begin to rise. There are nights when sleep does not come, not because of noise, but because of a terrifying silence, the silence of God. David, the great king of Israel, the one called a man after God's own heart, also experienced such long dragging nights. He did not hide it. He did not pretend he was always okay. In the most painful Psalms, he uttered words that perhaps you too want to scream but dare not. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? Why have you forsaken me? This is the cry of desolation. Why do we begin the lullaby section with such a painful question? Because, my friend, true sleep cannot come if we still suppress emotions. If you feel lonely, feel like God is very far away, yet you force yourself to joyfully trust, that internal conflict will keep your brain wide awake. God does not need you to put on an act with him tonight. He wants you to be brave like David, daring to place the most naked hurt on the altar of prayer. You feel abandoned? Tell him. You feel your prayers are falling into the void? Confess to him. Admitting negative emotions before God is the first step of catharsis. David continues to describe his state of chronic insomnia, a state that many of us understand to the point of heartbreak. I am worn out from my groaning. All night long I flood my bed with weeping and drench my couch with tears. My eyes grow weak with sorrow. They fail because of all my foes. All night long, David could not sleep. He was exhausted from groaning. He soaked his pillow with tears. This is not the image of a majestic king, but the image of a flesh and blood human being crumbling. But the miracle is, these complaints are recorded in the Bible as sacred prayers. That proves that your tears tonight are also cherished by God like precious pearls. God does not mock you when you cry. He is catching every drop of those tears in his wineskin. And then the anxiety about time appears in Psalm 13. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long? This question repeats 4 times like the rapid beat of an anxious heart. Wrestle with my thoughts. Are you wrestling with your mind right now? Worst case scenarios, worries about tomorrow keep attacking you. You wrestle to find peace, but the more you wrestle, the more tired you get. But my friend, look closely at the structure of these lamenting psalms. David always begins with pain, but never ends there. He walks through the pain to reach another horizon. He uses the cry for help as a rope to pull himself out of the deep pit. Immediately after pouring out his guts, after asking all the whys and how longs, David's tone suddenly changes. A miraculous shift occurs, not because the circumstances changed, but because his vision changed. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. From how long shifting to but I trust. Why is there this change? Because when David poured out his heart, he created a void in his soul, and precisely into that void, God's presence flooded in. He realized that, although his emotions zagged, God had abandoned him, his faith was anchored fast to his unfailing love. Tonight, I invite you to take this journey of the inner voice. Do not rush to force yourself to sleep. Spend a few minutes lamenting to God. Say, God, I am so tired. I feel so lonely. Why are you so silent? Pour all those invisible burdens out of your chest. And after having said it all, take a deep breath and whisper the word, but. But I choose to trust you. But I know you still love me. Honesty with emotions will pave the way for true peace. You do not need to tense up to be strong before the Heavenly Father. Your weakness is the very invitation for His power. When you stop wrestling with thoughts and start floating emotions in the river of grace, you will see the tension in your shoulders gradually dissolve. The cry in the deep night has been raised. It is no longer suppressed in the chest. It has flown up to the highest heavens. And do you know, when a child cries in the night, what will the father do? He will not just stand and watch. He will run to them, spreading wide his strong arms to envelop the trembling child, turning the cold room into an impenetrable fortress. When the wailing cry from the deepest part of the soul has just ceased, when tears have washed away the blurry dust of suppression, we suddenly feel an enveloping presence. It is no longer a terrifying silence, but the majestic stillness of a protector. From the darkness, the wings of the Almighty gently spread out, inviting us to step into an absolutely safe shelter where storms cannot touch. My dear friend, after pouring out your heart, do you feel a silence creeping into your mind? That is the silence of admitted weakness. But God does not leave you alone in that weakness. He knows that night is when humans feel most insecure. Darkness blurs physical boundaries, causing our imagination to paint invisible fears. Fear of disease, fear of disaster, fear of demonic attacks. Your body tenses up, your ears prick up to listen for every small sound. That is the state of hypervigilance, the number one enemy of sleep. To switch off this vigilance, you need to know where you are. You're not just in your bedroom. Spiritually, you're invited to step into an impregnable fortress. Listen to the majestic words from Psalm 91, the greatest manifesto of protection for souls seeking sleep. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Dwells. God does not invite you to visit Him for a moment. He invites you to move in and dwell permanently in His secret place. When you choose to trust, you are transferring your spiritual residence to the Most High. And pay attention to the image of the shadow of the Almighty. You can only be in someone's shadow when you stand very, very close to them. This means God is right beside you, so close that His shadow covers your bed, obscuring every attack from the outside. In that great shadow, the heat of anxiety cannot touch, and the cold of loneliness cannot penetrate. You are completely enveloped. David continues to describe the architecture of this safety. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. Visualize refuge and fortress. Imagine surrounding your bed tonight are high, solid stone walls. The worries and pressures of the outside world are like arrows shot in, but they all bounce off when touching God's protective wall. Inside this fortress, the air is completely still and safe. You no longer need to stand guard yourself. The keeper of the city is keeping watch for you. But God is not just a cold, rigid citadel. He is also a father, a mother full of tenderness. Psalm 91 shifts the scene from the solidity of rock to the softness of wings. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. Cover you with His feathers. This is perhaps the softest image in the Bible. Imagine you are a tiny, weak chick. When night falls or when hawks hover, you do not need to fight. You just need to slip under the mother hen's wings. It is dark there, but warm. It is tight there, but absolutely safe. The soft feathers brush against your cheek. Mother's steady heartbeat lulls you to sleep. Tonight, pull the blanket up over you. Treat that blanket as God's wings covering you. Feel that warmth. You are allowed to be small. You are allowed to be weak. Under these wings, the terror of night, or the arrow that flies by day, cannot touch you. However, there are times when life shakes so violently that even the feeling of safety is shaken. In those times, we need a deeper anchor. we turn to Psalm 46, where David faces the worst-case scenario. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Though the earth give way. Even when the foundations of your life collapse, job loss, divorce, bankruptcy, even when your mountain of reliance falls into the sea, you still need not fear. Why? Because your refuge is not stable circumstances, but God Himself. Circumstances may change, but God does not. And here is the strongest sleeping pill God prescribes for you in Psalm 46, a concise command containing the entire secret of letting go. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. In Hebrew, this word is Rapha, which means to drop the hands, to relax, to stop striving. God is saying, my child, put your hands down. Stop trying to hold up the sky. Stop trying to turn the tide tonight. Be motionless. When your body lies still, when your mind stops racing, that is when you know He is God. In the noise, you only know about the problem. In the silence, you truly know God. Practice the command, be still right now. Relax your furrowed brow. Relax your tensed shoulders. Relax your clenched hands. Sink deep into the mattress. Let gravity pull you down. Just as you completely entrust the weight of your life to God, you do not need to hold yourself up anymore. His wings are supporting you. His walls are surrounding you. You are in the safe zone of the universe. Here, all anxiety must stop at the door. Here, there is only the steady breathing rhythm of peace. You are safe, and when the feeling of safety has covered every cell, when the heartbeat has harmonized with the quiet rhythm of the night, our souls begin to feel another need. We not only want to be protected, we want to be nourished. We want to be led away from these fortified walls to a green, cool place where the soul can drink the cool waters of restoration. Safe under the shadow of the Almighty and hidden in the solid fortress, the fear of danger has completely vanished. Now, the gate of the fortress slowly opens, not to push us out into the storm, but for the Good Shepherd to lead us into a vast meadow, where green pastures and quiet waters are waiting to soothe us into deep sleep. My dear friend, take a deep breath and exhale gently. Imagine the gate of the fortified city where you are sheltering slowly opening. Outside there is no longer a storm, no longer a terrifying darkness. Before your eyes now is a vast space, lush green and flooded with the gentle light of dawn. It is the spiritual meadow where Jesus, the Good Shepherd, is waiting to take you for a walk. Why is the image of the shepherd so important for your sleep? Because sheep are weak, nearsighted, and easily lost animals. They cannot defend themselves, nor can they find food on their own. When tired, we are exactly the same. Disoriented and vulnerable, we need someone who not only rules like a king, but cares meticulously like a shepherd. Let David's first declaration become a soft pillow supporting your head tonight. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. I lack nothing. Murmur this sentence 3 times. The daytime world always tells you that you are lacking. Lacking money, lacking time, lacking love. That feeling of lack creates a gnawing emptiness that prevents you from sleeping peacefully. But when you enter a relationship with the shepherd, you realize you already have all, because he is the source of all abundance. When having a shepherd, the sheep does not need to worry about where to graze tomorrow. That is the shepherd's job. The sheep's job is only to eat and sleep. Tonight, become that obedient sheep. Push the to-do list aside. You have God, which means you have enough. And now let the shepherd lead you into the deepest relaxation therapy through a verse as beautiful as a painting. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. Pay attention to the verb, makes me lie down. Sometimes the sheep is too busy or too stressed to know how to rest on its own. It just stands there. Restless and anxious, the shepherd must gently press its shoulders down, forcing it to lie down to recover strength. Perhaps God is doing that to you right now. The fatigue that forces you to lie down on the bed is not a punishment, but a loving compulsion. He knows if you do not lie down, you will collapse. Therefore, submit to this leading. Relax your whole body. Visualize green pastures. In your mind, see the fresh green of the grass. The green color heals tired eyes. Feel the softness of the grass under your back. It is softer than any mattress. The scent of earth and plants gently surrounds you. You are being embraced by Mother Earth and covered by Father Sky. And beside you are quiet waters, not a roaring waterfall, nor a crashing sea. It is a stream flowing sluggishly and peacefully. The sound of water trickling, trickling, steady as a lullaby. That sound washes away the noise of the city, soothing the conflicts in the brain. Imagine you are bending down, cupping your hands into that cool water, and washing your face. Refreshment spreads through every cell. What is the effect of this scene? He refreshes my soul. The sleep God gives does not only restore the body, but it refreshes the soul. Your soul, the container of emotions, will, and memories, has been parched after the collisions of life. God's stream of grace will seep into those cracks, softening the calloused spots. Waking up tomorrow morning, you will not only be rested but also love life more. Be more tolerant. That is the sign of a restored soul. However, the journey of sleep is sometimes not all green grass. There are times when nightmares strike or fear creeps into dreams. David does not avoid that reality, but he provides us with a weapon to walk through the darkness. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Darkest valley. Perhaps you're going through the darkest stage of life: illness, divorce, debt. At night, this valley becomes even more terrifying. But look closely. It is just a shadow. The shadow of a dog cannot bite you. The shadow of a sword cannot cut you. Jesus is the light, and where there is light, darkness is merely an illusion. Why do you fear no evil? The only reason, for you are with me. The courage of the sheep comes not from its claws, but from the presence of the shepherd. Look at God's hands. He holds two things: the rod, a hard wooden stick to beat off fierce wolves. That is God's protecting power against every attack of the devil. The staff, a long stick with a curve to pull the sheep back when it strays toward the cliff. That is gentle guidance and correction, protection and direction. Both of these bring absolute comfort. You do not need to fear getting lost in your dreams or being attacked when defenseless. God's rod and staff are still working, even when you are sound asleep. Finally, David ends the meditation with a feast of victory. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Amidst enemies, anxiety, fear surrounding you, God does not rush to hide you. He calmly spreads a lavish banquet right in front of them. This affirms your status. You are God's VIP guest, and no enemy dares touch you when you are dining with the King. Anoint my head with oil. In ancient shepherding culture, the shepherd often anointed the sheep's head with oil to repel insects, flies that cause irritation, and heal scratches. Tonight, may the Holy Spirit anoint your mind with the oil of peace, driving away the flies of petty thoughts disturbing your sleep. My cup overflows, not just enough, but overflowing. The grace God has for you is always more abundant than your needs. Close your eyes. Feel yourself lying on the soft grass. The sound of the stream is in your ear. The protecting rod is planted in the ground beside you. Fragrant oil is on your forehead, and the cup of blessing is overflowing. You are safe. You are satisfied. You are loved. Let this image of green pastures slowly close your eyelids. And when the heart is sated with grace, when the wounds have been anointed for healing, a natural emotion wells up in the heart of the recipient. It is no longer a cry for help, nor just trust, but a melodious song of gratitude. Gratitude is the golden key to lock the negative doors of the past and open the most serene sleep. We raise the love song of thanksgiving in Idea 4, sated in the green pastures and bathed in the stream of grace. Our souls are now filled with a sweet and deep feeling. The laments of the dark night have receded, giving way to a new melody resonating in the chest, the melody of gratitude. Let David teach us how to turn painful memories into songs of thanksgiving, helping the heart truly be liberated, to enter complete sleep through the love song of thanksgiving. My dear friend, neuroscience tells us that the human brain possesses a negativity bias. We tend to remember pains, criticisms, and failures very persistently, like sticking to Velcro, but forget joys, successes, and grace very quickly, like sliding off Teflon. It is this mechanism that causes your insomnia. When you lie down, the brain automatically rewinds the sad movies of the past. To break this negative loop, we need a powerful command of the will, a stern yet loving reminder to our own souls. And no one does this more brilliantly than David in Psalm 103. Listen to how he commands his inner self, not in a whisper, but in a resounding declaration. Praise the Lord, my soul. All my inmost being, praise his holy name. Praise the Lord, my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Praise the Lord, my soul. Who is David talking to? He is talking to himself. Self-talk. He sees his soul drooping, wanting to sink into complaining. He does not indulge that emotion. He wakes his soul up. Hey, soul, stop drooping. Praise. Tonight, try doing as David did. Do not let sad emotions lead you. Use your will to direct your mind toward God. Forget not all his benefits. Forget not, because we forget very easily. We forget how many times we have been saved, how many times we have been provided for. Ingratitude is a poison that kills sleep, while gratitude is a sedative. Instead of counting sheep, tonight count your blessings. And David begins to list those benefits, things you may have taken for granted. Who forgives all your sins and heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit and crowns you with love and compassion. Forgives all your sins. Is guilt making it hard for you to sleep? God has forgiven all. Nothing is left out. Your heart is washed white. Heals all your diseases. Whether you are in physical pain or emotional trauma, God is the healer Jehovah Rapha. Hope for health is your right, redeems your life from the pit. How many times have you almost fallen into the pit of despair, bankruptcy, or accident? God pulled you up. Recall those times to see how fortunate you are, crowns you with love and compassion. You are not a failure. You are a child of the King, crowned with love. Go to sleep with the posture of a prince or princess, not a slave of anxiety. When you start counting these things, your brain frequency changes. Cortisol, stress hormone, drops, while dopamine and serotonin, happiness hormones, rise. your body automatically relaxes. Gratitude turns your bed into a launch pad for joy. But my friend, life is not always rosy. There are nights when the reality of pain is so great that words of thanksgiving become choked. David understood that. In Psalm 30, he wrote about the intersection of pain and hope, a verse that has saved countless people in the dark night of despair. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. Amade, stay for the night. Pain and tears are just a guest, not a resident. It only stays overnight. Do not grant permanent residency to sadness. Say to it, you can only stay here tonight. Tomorrow morning, you must go. Rejoicing comes in the morning. This is the law of the universe and also God's promise. The night does not last forever. The sun will surely rise. The darkness you are enduring is only temporary. Cling to the promise of the morning. Tonight's sleep is the bridge connecting the night of weeping and the morning of rejoicing. Sleep to cross that bridge. And the pinnacle of gratitude is the ability to see God's miraculous transformation in adversity. You turned my wailing into dancing. You removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy. Wailing into dancing, sackcloth with joy. God is the master of transformation. He does not just take away sadness, he turns it into joy. He does not just remove the mourning clothes, he clothes you in festival robes. Imagine the tears you shed on the pillow tonight. God is collecting to water the seeds of joy that will bloom tomorrow. Nothing is wasted in his kingdom. So tonight, instead of lying there thinking about terrible things, sing a silent song of thanksgiving in your heart. Thank you, God, for this soft pillow. Thank you for the roof sheltering me from sun and rain. Thank you for the breath still in my chest. Thank you that the sun will rise again tomorrow. When gratitude fills the mind, there is no room left for fear to squeeze in. You will sink into sleep with a slight smile on your lips, and the last concept remaining in your subconscious will be the sweetness of grace, not the bitterness of life. And when the song of thanksgiving has ended, when the mind is completely serene and content, we are ready for the final step. There is nothing left to say, nothing left to ask, nothing left to hold back. Only one action remains: completely letting go and falling into the arms of deep sleep, where God keeps our souls in perfect peace. When the sound of thanksgiving has settled into the gentle beats of the heart and the mind has been filled with goodness, all efforts finally dissolve. It is time to turn off the light of consciousness, let go of all control, and let the body sink deep into a state of absolute rest, with David's final prayer of entrustment, the sleep of the beloved. My dear friend, the fire in the hearth is now just warm, glowing embers, radiating a soft light. Darkness outside has enveloped everything, but in this room of the soul, peace is shining more brightly than ever. There is nothing left to do, no one left to convince, no problem left to solve immediately. It is time to perform the final act of faith of the day. Lie down and close your eyes. It sounds simple, but for many, lying down is a battle. We lie down, but our minds remain restless. We close our eyes, but our brains stay wide open to keep watch. But tonight, let King David teach you how to completely flip the switch through the most soothing prayer in Psalm 4. In peace, I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Pay attention to the order of the sentence. In peace, I will lie down. Peace is not the result of falling asleep, but the prerequisite for going to bed. David decided to put on peace first, then lie down. And why did he dare to sleep? For you alone, Lord, Make me dwell in safety. The word alone here is extremely important. David did not trust in guards, did not trust in bolted doors, did not trust in the sword under the pillow. He believed you alone were enough to keep him safe. Tonight, whisper to yourself, I do not need to protect myself anymore. God is already doing that. Feel the weight of your body sinking deep into the mattress. Imagine God's arm supporting your back. You do not need to tense up to hold onto life. Let go. Let gravity and grace work. But what is the greatest fear of the night? It is unconsciousness. When sleeping, we know nothing, control nothing. What if something happens while we are asleep? To answer this fear, lift your eyes to the mountains surrounding Jerusalem, where Psalm 121 rings out like a majestic lullaby. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And here is the greatest promise for the insomniac, a promise about God's night shift. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. Will not slumber nor sleep. My friend, the only reason you can sleep well is because God never sleeps. This universe does not need two people staying awake to manage it. If God is already awake guarding Israel, guarding the world, and guarding your home, then your staying awake is superfluous. Imagine Jesus standing right beside your bed, looking at you tenderly and saying, "Sleep, my child. I am here. I will take this night shift for you. I will watch over your heartbeat, watch over your breath, and watch over even your dreams. Nothing is allowed to touch you without my permission." You can resign from the role of CEO of the universe tonight. Hand over the keys. Hand over control to the keeper. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. Your shade at your right hand. God is so close. He is like your shadow. He shields you from every disaster. Let the concept of this absolute protection be the last thought passing through your mind. Now visualize yourself in the Father's arms, like a child who has played all day until exhausted, now snuggling into their father's lap. The child does not worry if there will be milk tomorrow. They only know their father's warmth, their father's scent, and their father's steady heartbeat. And so, they sleep. A dreamless, worry-free sleep. The Bible has a beautiful verse in Psalm 127 reserved just for you right now. In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves. He grants sleep to those he loves. Sleep is a gift, not a reward for hard work. You get to sleep not because you finished your to-do list, but because you are loved. God loves you. That love is greater than your mistakes, bigger than your worries. Receive this gift. Do not reject it anymore. Relax your forehead. Relax your eyes. Relax your lips. Relax your shoulders. Let your breath go out and in gently, like waves lapping against the sand. Inhale, peace. Exhale, let go. You are drifting into the river of grace. Jesus is there. He is smiling, watching you. The fire is still warm. The storm has dispersed. The pasture is still green, and your soul has come home. May God keep you in holy silence throughout this night. May the angelic hosts camp around you. And may the grace of Jesus Christ cover your dreams until dawn breaks. Sleep well, O beloved of God. Good night, and God bless you.